Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, this is Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things nerdy through a common sense lens. And we've all known, right, that like the legacy media lies, right, like a lot, okay? And they're really, really bad about making corrections or anything they screw up on. You know, they like to bury it on the very back page of, oh, on such and such date when we screwed up here and we said that X person actually completely and totally unalived other X person. It was actually not, it was a completely and totally false statement. Or da 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 da, and it's like, yeah, that's normally how, that's kind of like standard news media thing out there. Well, as another wonderful example of why you should never trust the legacy media institutions in any way, shape, or form, Kotaku, our dear sweet Kotaku. I'm sure they've never lied about anything ever before in gaming journalism or media or pop culture or any of that kind of stuff. Now, have they, boys and girls? No, they'd never do that. Except that we do know they do that kind of stuff all the time, and there is just another prime example of it right here, because as you can see from the headline over there at thatparkplace.com, Kotaku grossly misquotes MrBeast, leading to a dogpile on YouTube star. Outlet quietly edits article and buries correction with no apology. Oh, color us shocked there, ladies and gentlemen. They made a clickbaity headline that was completely and totally false. It was not true in any way, shape, or form, all so they could get a bunch of hits on their website to cause a bunch of rage bait, so they could make more ad revenue, ladies and gentlemen, because when you click on someone's website, it equals out to money for them. So all of the engagement that they got on Twitter from this, all of the engagement they got on their website for this, all of that nonsense is literally exactly why they did this. And the worst part about this, because guess what? If you were really smart about your marketing, right, you just make a giant headline that says, "We lied. Here's our course correction." Make a whole nother article, and you're literally going to get a whole bunch of more clicks on that if you did the exact same thing. But oh no, just like the rats they are, as soon as they go out there and get caught, they bury the correction as far as they possibly can, don't even have the integrity to say, "I'm sorry," but of course it doesn't matter. They probably knew exactly what they were doing, because they went with the headline just to make the money. So if you don't know what's going on, if you have no idea what this whole situation is about, we're going to check out this article from thatparkplace.com, getting all of the juicy details, and of course, give you my humble common nerd's opinion on a few different things involved with this as well. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share it with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 1,600. We're on our way to 1,700, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, let us know what you think about this in the comment section down below. Did you initially see that headline from MrBeast floating around? Did you believe it? Did you think he was a person that could actually say something like that? Did you believe Kotaku in actually believing, trying to report that they were honest about their journalistic integrity and actually did the work to double check what they were putting out there? Does it surprise you at all that it was Kotaku that did this, and now they're running away from it all like rats, even though the damage to MrBeast brand has already been done? Let us know what you think about that in the comment section down below, and if you'd like to support our channel, please check the links in the description as well. All right, from thatparkplace.com and our dear sweet Montanero. Kotaku, the gaming website notorious for misleading headlines and diminishing staff, yeah, y'all getting fired because of shit like this, has been caught spreading misinformation, this time about YouTube's biggest creator, MrBeast. This most recent controversy stems from an article written by Kotaku writer Zach Zwieven, originally headlined, "MrBeast, life is so much easier when you're broke." And obviously everybody, you know, would pretty much, anybody, all of us that out there that are broke, like that live paycheck to paycheck and all of that kind of stuff out there, yeah, trust me, we all know, like, yeah, of course there's a certain point where you're like super rich and it like, but then you just hire people to handle all that stuff and you can get screwed over, but you can be stressed out and stuff like that, all that kind of stuff. You know, there's literally like, there's a scale, I think. And they've done this study for many years out there. Like there's a scale, and obviously with inflation and everything else, the number goes up. But like the last time I read the article, it was like something like basically like the peak happiness as far as where before money really becomes a problem, but you can still buy all your toys and stuff like that. It's like 120K a year or something like that. But after that, like the amount of money you make just causes more stress and stuff like that. But that's kind of like, so there is, we know there's a comfortable spot, but it is definitely not easier when you're broke. As a guy who had to wait for my tax return in order to fix my van, yeah, it ain't easier when you're broke. Not by a long shot. But of course, Kotaku lied, and that's not what he actually said, which we actually have his actual quote. So the problem? MrBeast never actually said that, even though here's their tweet, and once again, shout out to X, shout out to the community noters out there, because readers added context. Fake! MrBeast never said that. He said in a post that he never said that, and he's being attacked for this fake news that Kotaku drummed up. Do not believe these folks anymore. In a recent episode of the Diary of CEO podcast, Jimmy Doltson, better known as MrBeast, spoke about the challenging of his high-profile lifestyle. The real quote, which Kotaku failed to verify before running it with a misleading headline, was, "It is like so much easier when you're... Bro, if you don't have to travel constantly, life is so easy." And I think that's something that everyone can relate to, especially all the crazy stuff now, like post 9/11 with the airports and everything else. I mean, like literally, it is a pain in the ass to travel. And especially if you've got a lot of people. I mean, I got 6 kids, boys and girls. Like, do you have any idea what it takes for my family to travel and go anywhere? Yeah, it absolutely is a pain in the butt if you ain't got to go nowhere. At no point did MrBeast claim that being broke made life better or even utter the word broke. He simply discussed the exhaustion that comes with nonstop travel and high-level responsibilities. But rather than verify his words, actually listen to the podcast, actually do your job. I mean, you literally could have you could have plugged the podcast into Grok and had Grok sum it up with you and pull a couple of quotes out of it from MrBeast. But no, that's not what Kotaku did, nor did they actually ever intend to do that, because they're not honest brokers of any kind of media. Kotaku rushed in with an incorrect quote, attempting to bank on what would have been a hilariously out-of-touch statement, if true, for maximum outrageous clicks. MrBeast took to X to share the misquote from Kotaku, noting that since the article went up, he'd been victimized by a slew of online verbal abuses, because this is the internet, and that's how the internet reacts. A news site lied and said that I said life is so much easier when you're broke, which I didn't say. Now I'm waking up to millions of people believing the lie and hating me. Being famous is so much fun. And that's the problem when you do not have journalists with any kind of integrity. That's why the legacy media stuff is all dying off, and people are turning to commentators and people out there on Twitter that can report the news and have inside sources of their own and all of that kind of stuff. Citizen journalists are literally replacing the legacy media. And guess what? It's because of stuff that Kotaku has done like this over and over again, as well as CNN and the New York Times, and all of the legacy media institutions have done this at one point or another. But like I said, that's not even the worst part, because they're not even apologizing properly. Kotaku's half-hearted damage control. Following Backlash and a swift community note fact-checking their misquote, Kotaku eventually revised the article. But instead of issuing a proper retraction or an apology, the outlet did the absolute bare minimum. Like I said at the beginning of the video, they literally could have gotten just as many clicks, if not more, if they wrote a whole honest article about what they did in this situation, about how we lied. And you could have done everything on the fallout from MrBeast. You could have milked this for weeks. But oh no, as soon as their lie was found out, they ran like the rats they are and went and hid. So mistakes and misquotes happen in journalism. Tight deadlines and the constant race to get news out can lead to accuracy issues. But responsible journalism outlets will take every opportunity to correct their mistake, apologize, and vow to do better in the future. That didn't happen here. And yeah, Jen Glevin, editor-in-chief at Kotaku.com. Yeah, I'm sure she's not a political agent of chaos in any way, shape, or form. I'm sure she's just another gamer. Right, guys? The original article, along with the promotional X post, went live on February 20th, 2025. However, the article was not corrected until March 1st, 2025 at 12:50 p.m. Eastern, a full 10 days later. And of course, after most of the traffic had probably already died down on their website as well. And rather than issue a proper, widespread, and corrected apology, Kotaku merely tacked on this small note at the very bottom of the page. You notice how we use Cosmic Book News a lot sometimes, and occasionally we'll use Deadline and some of the trade magazines out there, right? You notice how on Cosmic Book News, whenever his updates are, it's literally either at the top of the very first paragraph, which Deadline does that a lot of the time, or it's literally right after the very first paragraph. You read the very first paragraph, and then there's an update. And where it fixes it, whether it be an update for a box office numbers, or say we misquoted or whatever. It's at the top of the article. Where does Kotaku put it? All the way at the bottom. And this is their statement. Correction, 3/1/2025, 12 p.m. Eastern, a prior version of this article incorrectly quoted MrBeast as saying easier when you're broke when speaking about the challenge of his current lifestyle. The misquote came from a transcript provided by PR for the Diary of a CEO podcast ahead of the episode's airing. Oh, it's not our fault. It's their fault. They gave us bad information. MrBeast has since clarified his statement in a post on X and Twitter, and we've updated the quote and the article's headline accordingly. Notice there's no "I'm sorry" in there at any point. No apology to MrBeast for damaging his brand and causing him stress and all this other kind of nonsense unnecessarily. Yeah, none of that. And look, I don't know MrBeast from Adam. I've never watched any of his content. All I ever see is his headlines and stuff like that. Like I have no dog in his fight whatsoever. What the dog that I do have in this fight is journalistic integrity, because journalistic integrity is why so many of us had to turn on cameras to begin with, because we knew you couldn't be trusted because you do crap like this. Right? That's why we're covering this. I don't give two squats about MrBeast, but this is another prime example of the legacy media lying to you, which is why they're failing, it's why they're dying, and it's why we're succeeding. But we have to keep pushing. This culture war is far from over. And actually, all actuality, it will truly never be, because there will always need to be faithful watchers on the wall, keeping an eye on this kind of stuff, even if we do get it turned around, even if we do get it to where we start getting good quality content out of these institutions again, it will never be over. Because as always, people will once again try to get in and figure out how to use this stuff, manipulate it, and try to manipulate you and screw over your kids. I, for one, am not going to stand for that kind of stuff. And Kotaku's lies and nonsense is just one more example of the problems with the legacy media and why they need to diversify, include, and equity. Nowhere in this correction does Kotaku apologize for the mistake and the impact that it had on MrBeast and his brand. Nowhere does it acknowledge that it actually spread misinformation, intentional or not. And despite this egregious error, Kotaku has not issued an X post correcting the record, which means they're still getting all that wonderful revenue from that tweet out there as well. Their misleading tweet promoting the article remained up for days before finally being removed, only after being flagged by a community note. Shout out to X and the community notes. But that's it. Just a small blurb at the very bottom of the edited article, which after being up on the site for a full 10 days, likely wasn't receiving a lot of traffic. Yep, because it's just like everything else. That's why so many people are in such a rush to get videos out and everything else, because first, if you're not first, you're last, and this stuff fades quickly, especially when we're covering pop culture, or especially when we're covering the news. It's a 24-hour news cycle, boys and girls, and things will get out of the cultural zeitgeist very quickly. I, for one, am generally not too worried about that kind of stuff. I'm not one of those guys that's running out on a Saturday to report on the box office numbers. I'll wait till Monday. It's not a big deal to me. It doesn't seem to be that big a deal to my audience out there either. You guys still love it. You guys still watch the videos. We still cover all that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is the problem when you rush things. My grandfather used to say it to me all the time. It's better to slow down and do it right the first time than have to go back and do it again. And guess what? Kotaku had to go back and do it again, but they did the absolute bare minimum effort on that as well. So even worse, as is 10, seeing Kotaku MrBeast on Google brings up the original misleading headline showing the lasting damage of the misinformation. Yep. Absolutely. And they go on to talk about all the kind of stuff, the Kotaku being all of this kind of problem, having this kind of stuff out there, and all of the kind of stuff with MrBeast being controversy. I really don't care about all of that kind of stuff. Kotaku's decline. We've documented all of them getting fired and everything else. And it's just one of them situations where this is exactly why I turned on a camera. This is exactly why I turned on I got a microphone. Because we can't trust these people. And it's why so many millions of others have done the exact same thing. You know, the number one news sources now, when you look at the numbers, it's not even close. Dude, nobody trusts the legacy media anymore. It's all independent journalists. It's independent commentators out there doing their thing on YouTube and on Rumble and on Twitter or X, you know, and all of these other places out there where you can actually speak the truth. And you're not being beholden to some big institution like Disney or Marvel or one of those kind of people out there, because you don't need the access. And guess what? Most of us aren't in that big of a rush anymore. I mean, there will always be people that want the things first and right away and want the inside information and the inside track. And guess what? Not everybody's going to bother with that. Why? Because we don't want to be beholden to people. We don't have to be the access media who has to do their bidding. But this is just another example why the legacy institutions cannot nor should they be trusted. Yeah, read their articles, read their information, get the information you need, but then go out there and verify it. Trust nothing they say, especially what they put in their headlines, and especially not Kotaku. They are just another prime example of an overall institutional problem, and unfortunately, this case caused MrBeast a lot of unnecessary hate that he didn't do. I wonder if maybe he might sue them for all of his pain and suffering. Probably wouldn't be worth it since Kotaku broke, so they're going downhill, and everybody seems to keep getting fired out there. And guess what, Kotaku? This right here is an example of exactly why your website is going down the toilet. So enjoy all of the wonderful clicks you got off of this time, because as you have shown once again, you want to continue to damage your brand permanently. And guess what? That's the way things go. After all, go woke, go broke might not be a good example of this one, but Kotaku is definitely going broke, and this is exactly why.